and everybody was like trying to out polite each other, and it just went really smoothly. So we'll probably do that again today. So all of our panel speakers can just come off of mute, and as we start talking, we'll you can kind of look and see who's about to talk, and we'll just handle it that way. Does that work?
That totally works for me.
Excellent.
We're all in agreement. We get some thumbs up out there. He has the teacher in me, right? It's like thumbs up, jazz hands, all that happy stuff.
So do they see themselves in the order that we see them? No. Okay.
So just like yesterday, if you were here with us, thank you so very much. I am going to ask all of our speakers to keep it short, keep it brief, about 1 minute, quick introduction, who you are, who you serve, and just something really, really quick so that we can get that part done, let people kind of know your expertise, and then we'll jump into our topic for the day. We're going to start with Mindy, and then we'll go to Joanne.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. I think it's afternoon probably for most people. I am Mindy Green, and I am a former school social worker, a mom of 4 adult children, which I don't know how this happened because I made a contract with them. Please don't get older than 13, and now here we are in their 20s. So I am a parent educator and DISC and with DISC as well as SEL. So I also write. I have a children's book that just came out recently, and I'm writing my first book for parents.
Thank you so much, Joanne. And then Dr. Stephanie.
Yeah, I'm Joanne Williams, and I've been a therapist for now over 30 years. And my specialty has always been with starting with children that are abused. And even to this day, my specialty is anxiety reduction and trauma recovery. So that's been my specialty. With children, I just spoke about using a service dog. Even little guys can be a service dog if they, under the ADA, if they're trained to do a task for you. And as well, I've written a children's book that is the story of a shy, withdrawn child who uses his dog to come out of his shell. So really glad to be here.
Thank you. Dr. Stephanie, and then Stanley.
Thank you so much. I am Dr. Stephanie Duguid with Duguid Leadership in Mississippi, and I'm a leadership culture strategist, speaker, author, and podcaster, but I am a 30-year educator in both K-12 and higher ed. I typically work with groups and organizations to align communication, well-being, and leadership so that their teams feel supported, connected, and actually want to stay. And because of a background in sports medicine, I look at culture a little bit differently, and culture can be in an organization or even at home. So I truly focus on the human systems behind performance, because burnout, miscommunication, and just disconnection can all start with one individual or one conversation. Because when you strengthen one person, you can strengthen the entire culture. And again, that starts at home. And I too have a published book, which is Exponentially Elevate Your Leadership Impact. And this can be for anyone, moms, dads, leaders, anyone. So thank you for having me.
You're very welcome, Stanley, and then Jackie.
I'm Stanley Black. I'm a certified True Colors facilitator. I'm a certified functional nutritionist, and I help families reduce overwhelm and energize joy by improving health, communication, trust, and collaboration.
Thank you so much, Jackie, and then Mitra.
Hi, I'm Jackie Bailey. I founded the Speak, Feed, Lead project, which does what our name says, as we help children and adults to speak with power, to feed others in word and deed, and to lead with positive influence. So we unmute voices and get you on stage.
Thank you. Mitra.
Hi, I'm Mitra Cummins, and I am a parent coach and family coach. I support overwhelmed parents to regulate their nervous system and communicate with intention so that they can stop living in survival mode and start living and enjoying family and life again. My background is working with neurodiverse families as well as pregnant and postpartum families. And I have I'm a certified neurolinguistic program practitioner, master practitioner, as well as mental emotional release hypnotherapy, and I integrate ancient Hawaiian energy work into my practice.
Sure. Your turn.
I am the co-founder of Vibrant Family Education, and we help families explore education possibilities and work with parents to, again, bring them back into their humanity, and then work with their families to work on education. But it's so important to bring children back into what it means to be human. And doggies.
And doggies. Sorry, our son is coming home. He left earlier. He's coming back. Anyway,
They're excited to see him.
I am Christina Hay Averitt, co-founder of Vibrant Family Education and co-host of Bringing Education Home. Again, like Herb said, we are here to help families make sure that their child's education is a great fit. It might be such that we just need to tweak some things around the public education. It might be that you're ready to take that big, bold step into homeschooling. And we are here to support you and your family to make sure you raise happy, healthy, and successful children. And now on to the actual panel. All right. This time our theme is regulation first, the foundation of family connection, behavior, and learning. And so the question that I'd like to start out with for everybody, and again, we're just kind of jumping in and taking turns, is the first question is, many parents are exhausted, overwhelmed, and try to hold everything together. How does a parent's emotional state impact that family connection, those behaviors, and that learning more than people realize?
So I'll jump in because my perspective might be just a little bit different, because I know that we've got some really great counselors here. But one of the things, especially in the communication space, is whenever you are in your home, you tend to have your guard down, as opposed to when you're in the public and you have to be around people and be on. So one of the things that I would share is that as a parent, don't always have your guard down at home and take your emotions out on your family and your children. So sometimes it's very hard not to do that, because you're like, well, this is my safe space. I should be able to say and think and do what I want to do. But just as in work, we have the same expectations at home, is that your children are learning from you. They're learning how you communicate. They're learning how you interact. They're learning how you handle your emotions. And so this is an important time to start to respond. And I heard there were some breathing activities earlier. I was on, my video wasn't on, but I heard the breathing activities earlier. And so, think about that so that you can model what a great way is that if you are overloaded, how to interact with other individuals.
Awesome.
And I'll jump off of that one to say that during the pandemic, when I was working with so many young people, they reported to me that they could not share with their parents how they were feeling, because they knew parents were already stressed out. They were worried about grandma and grandma getting sick. And so the kids held everything inside. And I believe that's the reason so many of our young people took their lives during that period of time. So my advice is, please don't accidentally mute your children. Allow them to hear your stresses, your worries, your concerns, so that they can let you know what they're feeling as well. Don't think you're doing them a favor by keeping it all inside. The family should have counsels and talk with each other.
And it's one of those things where there's a balance, right? We do what Dr. Stephanie said, we hold ourselves to high expectations as parents, but then we also share in age appropriate ways. So many of our experts, especially today, talked about that spidey sense that the kids have. They know when you're not telling them something. They know when you're stressed anyway, right? So when you're able to share that in appropriate ways and allow them to share back, right?
Because they might misinterpret your emotional state, thinking that they're the cause of it, and you don't want that to happen.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And tying on to the idea of letting your guard down, I think it's really easy, if you're not careful, to allow the lack of respect you may be feeling in your outside world to bubble over at home. And so that whole conversation about respect kind of becomes a double-edged sword, because there's things that kids can do that they would never dream of not respecting you. They have no idea that the thing that they're about to do could cause you to feel disrespected. And so it's just so important to actually program into your day as a parent some space, some time for yourself, where you can say, how am I feeling? Am I okay? So that the frustrations we're facing in the outside world don't bubble over and hit our family where it's not justified at all.
Yeah, that reminds me, we had a parents whose children would come home from school and then they would just melt down and blow up. And that's because they were on for so many hours of the day. Yeah. They had to perform, and then they get home to their safe space and they kind of melt down. And it's also in the parents' best interest to recognize that and to be gentle during that time. Maybe give them a different way to melt down and to be able to express whatever came up during the day, and then to not take it personally and is like, oh, be quiet, whatever, calm down. And so allow the children to, after they've had a hard day, to be able to melt, but maybe teach them in a more appropriate fashion.
Mm. If I could piggyback on that as well, I'm just thinking of a couple of things that come to mind for me because I work around nervous system regulation quite a bit with parents. And then because we know that our kids, they imitate us, they're watching us, they're observing us. That's in the brain. It's those mirror neurons. So they're mirroring what they see from us. And so if we see our kids getting stressed and we know we've been stressed, but maybe haven't talked about it, they pick those up. It's the spidey senses, like you said. And I think the other piece of this too is home is where we're most vulnerable. And I heard someone speak earlier today, and they were talking about like how do you care for people when they're most vulnerable. And so I think if we're just putting it into this context, it is having some boundaries so that our kids know that we're okay, and then we're also modeling that for them. We can talk about what our stressors are, and then also talk about some of the things that we're doing to take care of ourselves, or model that for them, because those are all skills that they're going to need as well to be resilient.
I agree. And I'm going to add on to that. Every single one of us seems like we're adding a little bit more to this, because I feel the same thing with support or self-care with parents, maybe needing to do your own work. And it may be with a counselor, professional person, so that you can model this. Because if you're up to here with all your frustrations and you don't have any place to go, like Stanley Black was saying, we bring it home. What else are we supposed to do with it? We have to express it someplace. The best place can be in an office or through the video. I always say, throw it in the trash, leave it here so you don't bring it home. But sometimes you do need professional help to be able to come home with that refreshed feeling and be again vulnerable and express things to your kids. Yeah, I had to go get some help. I had to go talk to somebody because I didn't know how to handle my frustration. It's not about you, but I had to learn some skills too. We all do.
I love everybody's point of view as well as perspective to bring into this. And hopefully, I'm tying this together with a beautiful bow. I had a previous client who had difficulty sharing when she needed to ask for forgiveness from her son. She never wanted to say, I'm sorry. And her background on her, she is a powerhouse of a woman, someone I would never want to cross in a duel. She was very, very strong. And I think once we were able to navigate where she felt like saying, I'm sorry, or saying, please forgive me, felt like a weakness for her to her son. And she wanted to always be seen as someone very powerful, someone very strong. I also commended her and said, not only are you really strong, but admitting your faults and how you navigate that will also empower your son to do that himself. And that was so profound for her to recognize, okay, maybe I'm not saying I'm sorry, but I'm saying, please forgive me, or changing of language to help elude something similar. So going home, like Herb was saying, like when your kids come home, maybe they need a different decompress. Maybe you're not even asking or saying anything. You just give them a hug, or you just keep saying, I love you. I love you. I missed you today. And you're just showering them with love instead of questions, and just finding different ways to meet them where they're at and meet yourself where you're at. So if you're having a crummy day, you come in with it and say, hey, I'm having an off day today. How about you? Can we work through this together?
And we do have, our children are like sponges. We were at an event 2 weeks ago, and one of the ladies brought her 2-year-old daughter. One of the things that we did in that event was we talked about how hard it was to ask for help, and then we actually practiced asking for help
Around the room.
Around the room.
A whole bunch of coaches.
Right after the event, the mother of the child says, we went to a store and the little girl was going around, hey, can you help me with this? Hey, can you help me with that? Because she heard that, I am strong enough to ask for help. Because if you think about it, it's like, oh, I can't do that, blah, blah, blah. You're not strong enough. So I am strong. And so this little girl was like going up and, hey, can you help me get that down? Can you help me with this? And she was just asking for help for everybody. So your children are paying attention. And she saw a whole group of room asking for help. And then it was like, it was just easy for her from that. So your children are paying attention.
Yeah, love it.
Your turn.
I love all of this. And the only other thing that popped in my head around this is about being the exhausted and the overwhelmed is that there's been another layer added to most adults. Some of us are now working from home all the time. We used to have that 20-minute car ride or that half-hour car ride from work to home, etc., to help maybe decompress or think through our day and things like that. So we didn't take it into the house with us quite as much. And so one of the coaches that I've watched and listened for a long time, he said, you know, when I started working from home full time, I had to do that ritual, even though I wasn't doing it. So the walk from the office down the hall into the living room was that mindset time. I'm not working anymore. I'm a dad now. And that's the focus I need to bring into the household. He actually had like a spot on the door frame as he walked by. He would touch it or hit it. It's like dad mode now. I'm switching and doing what I need to do for my family because I care about them so much. So just those kinds of things to think about as we're talking about that exhaustion and overwhelm. Question number 2 for this panel is, we often focus on correcting behavior before we understand what's underneath it. What do you think children are really communicating through difficult behavior, shutdowns, anxiety, and conflict? Back to that communication, which so many of us in here are experts at. How can we focus on what they're really trying to communicate?
So I'm happy to jump in on that one first, because
he's got 9 kids, by the way.
Yes,
very,
I have 9 kids.
Very interesting perspective that he comes out.
but also just my specialty, because here's the thing, and I didn't cover it yesterday, but just briefly, of the temperaments, green needs to feel like they're smart. Gold needs to feel like they're right. Blue needs to feel like they're needed. And orange needs to feel like they're significant. And particularly for parents trying to parent a strong orange child, where orange is very, very dominant in that child, the thing most parents don't realize is the one thing that an orange cannot stand is you taking them for granted. So they will do almost anything to make sure that you cannot, that it doesn't look like you're predicting what they're going to do, which means for an orange child, they would rather have you be mad at them than ignore them. And so just the awareness that the thing that they cannot stand is to not be noticed. And so there's just so many cases where, like, as I've coached parents and stuff, I'm like, okay, so you were explaining to me how last night, the child like argued with you for 30 minutes about not eating their food. Question: if they had not done that, was there 20 minutes in your schedule for that child? And just facing that, for the orange child, they cannot stand to not be seen. Like it's deep, it's profound, just like a green, like me. I can't stand to have somebody think that I'm not smart. And obviously there's triggers there and stuff to work through and all that sort of stuff. But the point is, for children, when we're looking at those deep needs, it's the whole thing of, if you understand your child's temperament and their deepest needs, their deepest motivations, are you doing something proactively to make sure that's happening and that connection's there? Because if it's not happening proactively, it's going to be reactively.
I would like to add to that. If you're not sure how to figure out what those deep level needs are, there are a couple of tools I'll briefly explain, because I didn't in my talk at all go over behavior. And that's one of my profound experiences, is working with kids in social emotional learning and behavior experiences in school, in groups, and one-on-ones. And the first concept I'd like to just touch on is the 4 functions of behavior. It's like the driving force within why a behavior might come up. So someone might try to escape something, might want attention, might want a tangible, or it may be meeting a sensory need. So those are the 4 big picture reasons why a behavior might be coming up. And when you pair those functions of trying to understand, okay, is my child trying to escape a situation, get attention, my attention, get or someone else's attention, get a tangible item, or are they meeting a sensory need of theirs, or a combination? Sometimes there's combinations. Then I pair it with the ABCs of behavior. A being the antecedent, what happened before the behavior, what was the trigger? B, what's the behavior itself, and being very objective and just going, this is the behavior that it's not that they're disrespecting me, it's they're having emotional experience. They are experiencing X. And then the consequence, I really like to think about the C, the consequence more of what's just the aftermath after the behavior, what happened. If you can understand what the antecedent, what the trigger of a behavior is, you'll have a better understanding of the behaviors and how to resolve from them and move forward. I use ABCs more as a mental thought and a process when I work with my kids, or my kids specifically, and kids that I've worked with, versus something I work through it with them. It's more so as a parent and an educator that I consider, okay, if these are the triggers, how can I help alleviate knowing these triggers come up constantly? What is it we need to work on with them? So if they're trying to escape all the time at school, okay, what's happening at school that's triggering them at school? Connect with the school to create that environment. Or if they're trying to get my attention all the time, okay, what is it that I'm doing that's not allowing them to feel like they have the right, like the attention that they need? If it's a tangible with their sibling, figuring out ways to alleviate that. If it's a sensory need, how can we keep meeting that, and so on and so forth.
I love this question so much because behavior comes up in all places. I mean, it's not just at home, it's at school, it's in college. I mean, I saw it at the universities and at the community colleges. So I love this question so much because it really makes you think about, what is your background as the adult? For me, I was in the middle of, corporal punishment was way back when, and being really firm with the kids and then moving forward to where we are. So, some of the parenting, they're taking what they or how they were parented years ago and trying to share that knowledge with their kids. Well, parenting has changed so much. Our kids have evolved so much that we as parents have to learn a new way in order to connect with our kids. And that's really what it comes down to, is the connection. And I love what Mitra was saying was, what is the antecedent? What is the A? What happened before? Because usually the outburst is attention seeking. Whether they realize it or not, it's attention seeking. And it could be that they're wanting to share something that is underlying. It could be they didn't have enough of your attention, or it could be something completely different. As a quick example, at the college, I had a student that yelled and hit a teacher at the college. And it came down to the fact that she had to leave now to get to her job. And after we got to the underlying factor, it turns out her dad just left. Her mom had cancer. Her sister was sick, and she was the sole provider for the family. But until you stop and you ask, how can I help you? How can I support you? Help me understand the situation. Then you can't get from where you are to where you need to be and find the appropriate path to take.
And I'm going to say you've got to self-regulate first. Because if you don't, I have this pause to pivot, to redirect. You cannot connect when you're emotional. And so you have to self-regulate. The 4-8 breathing, to me, with every client I've worked with, works. It resets you out of whatever's going on with you to be able to listen, to connect. And then I say read body language with a child, because you can read it all over their face, what's going on, if they're anxious or they're sad. But you can't if you're emotionally already dysregulated. So I say breathe through it, pause, to be able to pivot so you can listen, because then you get it. It's so much easier once you're regulated to be able to listen to a child or help them by seeing, oh, you look so sad. Tell me what just happened, which you can look back and see what's going on. Or if they're angry, what just happened? Who just crossed some boundary with you? But you can help them understand it, because when they're dysregulated, they can't do it either. Or you can co-regulate first with the breathing, so you both can be at that spot to be able to connect.
And so I'll add to that. This has been such a rich conversation, just all the answers that we've gotten. And I like what everyone has said. And just to build on that, I think that just like Joanne had just mentioned, it's like regulating ourselves and recognizing that in the midst of a behavior, our kids are not regulated either. And so when you can pause and not because we're so quick to want to react to something rather than being able to step back. And so I know just from my own parenting and from the families that I work with, whenever there's been a reaction rather than a step back to then pause and regulate and then become curious, then things can, go off in the wrong direction. So being able to do that, and it's practice. It takes time, it takes skill, reading the body language, understanding what might be coming, what happened before the behavior to trigger it. What temperament, all of that is really so key. But the biggest part of that is being able to receive that information in a way then you can respond to it.
You are all so much smarter than me, but I would say that behavior is a symptom. And if your child is behaving in a way that you would deem unacceptable, chances are they are unable or don't know how to express what they're feeling or what their needs are. And through effective conversation skills and methodologies, you can try to diffuse the situation and begin to build trust in conversation so that your child is more able to open up to you about those feelings and needs.
Exactly. And one of the things that just popped into my head was that when do we practice that, right? So Jackie, take exactly what you were saying, helping them learn how to express it. Family meetings, let's play a game around communicating and try to describe something that we don't know how to really describe and get that practice in so that when it is so crucial, they can do it, right? Put these little games, tricks, family meetings, whatever in place that can really help our children learn those skills early. Yeah.
So I got this little oppositional thought thing running through my head.
Uh-oh.
So we go back a bunch of years. Right now our children are on more antidepressants. There's more child suicide. There's more problems now. Is this really an evolution of our children, or is this a problem with society because of how we have been changing so rapidly? Is there a benefit to maybe going back to some of the more ancient kind of teachings and ways of handling it, instead of letting it's all, your emotions are so important. Your behavior in society is so much more important than your emotions. So how do we bring that back to not letting the emotions override and become more important than the behaviors? Because sometimes I don't necessarily see it as an evolution. I actually see it as we're creating more problems now, and we're coming up with really fancy ways to try and solve them with all of these. That's why we all have jobs at the moment, right? So how can we should we try and go back to things that have worked well that have been deemed ancient or no longer because we're evolving? So that's just kind of my thought. I don't know that that's where we should go with our next question, but that is just what came up through my mind as all of your answers were amazing. But at the same time, it's like 50, 60 years ago, would they have been necessary?
So I'll just jump on this real fast, just from the healthcare side of it, because my background is sports medicine. And so what we have found is that because of the evolution of healthcare, way back when you had the town doctor, and that person knew you for everything. They knew you from birth to death, everything about you, what you had, what you didn't have, what your family had, everything. Well, now we have so many specialists, and insurance companies are dictating the time frame your physician has with you. They have a checklist. You have this, this, this. Oh, you need Ritalin. You have this, whatever it might be. So it's the quick diagnoses. It's being paid by the pharmaceutical companies to diagnose and use their products that has really created this snowball effect. Let's just give chemicals to our kids because we're so busy, instead of finding the foundational reason why things are going on. In my opinion, I think that education kind of has it wrong. And I'm in that space. But education has it wrong because they're so focused on the tests. My 16-year-old is so stressed about his sophomore benchmark test because it determines if he graduates or not. But he's a smart kid. He got a 20 on the ACT, but if he didn't pass the silly test, he can't graduate. So those things are really things that get under my skin. And I think that we had it better way back when we said, all right, what do you enjoy doing? Let's do some lessons about what you enjoy doing. And so that's where I think that we have it wrong right now. And that's why so many other schools that tailor to students, charter schools, some other schools that have different practices are so much more successful than this for the students that go through what they have today.
And if I could just jump in on that also, we've moved to a society that's looking at outcomes instead of the people. In other words, we're teaching lessons instead of teaching students. And so I've thought a lot about the whole question of, maybe the farm was better, maybe we need to go back to the farm. Well, the biggest thing about the farm is everybody's significant, everybody matters, and everything is extremely tangible. And I think that's the big thing that I see no problem with innovation, with where we're going, with what we can achieve today. I think there's a lot of good there, as long as you also get time to get out and touch grass. As long as you also, get those fundamental principles, those fundamental things. But the thing in all of this is staying true to the principles and figuring out the correlation between cause and effect. And because there is so much that is so much less that is demonstrated tangibly, we have to have more conversations about reality, because it's not the children running outside and just experiencing, frankly, let's put it bluntly, an animal killing another animal that they see outside. They see a predator killing a prey, and it's just, we're like, oh, that's a nasty experience. But the thing is those, that tangible, experiential, physical nature of things just taught some lessons that parents frankly didn't have to verbalize. Or if the child saw it and they were traumatized by it, they might come in and say, man, I saw this is crazy, and it gives that opportunity. Whereas today there's so much of, you need to handle it, you need to stay on top of it, you need to be okay, that everybody's internalizing everything instead of processing it tangibly. And so I see the appeal of the old ways, and there's some really, really good principles from those old ways that we need to hang on to. But we also need to recognize that we're stepping into the future, but that future requires a lot more conversations today because of the lack of the experiential nature of things now.
And I would love to add within those conversations, because I think that was a great segue to what I was going to mention, was parents are navigating tech in a world where tech is going so fast, growing exponentially, and how parents are asking themselves, myself included, how do we keep up? How do we help create internet safety, online safety? How do we make it so that kids can learn? Because kids can learn via, their online schooling or whatever, they do their assignments on their computer. So be it. That's awesome. And there's also going back to, well, it's a matter of teaching them how to do it. And we have to instill that within ourselves. So if we're acknowledging, okay, there is a limit to the amount of screens that we want our kids to have, then we have to be the model for it. Because it's actually, if we don't want our kids to be on a screen for as long as they want to be, then are we doing that? Obviously, us as parents, we may have work, we have to answer emails and things, but what are your boundaries around screens so that you can model that for your kids and also regulate yourself? I love what another one speaker said was just having, you guys were saying like your ritual when you leave the office and having your little rituals. I have a friend, and I've modeled this too from her. She'll just drop on the floor and lay down when she knows she needs a break. And she sets like an hour timer and does that every hour for like a couple of minutes just to give her body and her mind a break, because she knows that being on a screen for so long is going to create like a mind fuzz, and going outside would be better. But if you don't have that time, then so be it. But you got to figure that out for you and then model that for your kids. And I think it's going to keep growing. So if we keep pushing on it and saying, no screens, no this, no that, then our kids are going to push back about it. So how can we work with them? How can we work with our kids? Can we make it a bonding experience with our kids? Or like movie nights, creating that time depending on the age. My kids are a little young. I'm not doing movie nights yet, but I know that that'll be a thing that we incorporate because we love watching movies as a family. That's something we enjoy doing. So finding that as a way of making it social versus independent.
This is so, I love this. And I want to keep going and going and going, but I'm looking at the clock. So here we go. Everybody gets another chance to impart some more wisdoms, more tangible, actionable things, because one thing that is a tenet of our summit is that parents can walk away with something that they can do tonight or tomorrow or later this week to really help up level their families and make it a great experience for them and themselves. So here's your question. If a parent listening today feels like they're failing, or falling behind because the family life, the way it is right now, what would you want them to know? We're going to start with Mindy and then I'll.
Let's go to Joanne and Jackie too, because they didn't get to pop in on that last one.
I think that the most important thing that any parent that who's watching this, for those of us who are parents as well, is that our capacity changes from day to day. And so, I have worked with several, families who have that perfectionist tendency, the parents do. And so they are so hard on themselves. And I fall into that category too. It's like the shame and the guilt and all of it. And it's like this ball that just sits inside of my chest. And I feel like it's like, and so one of the things is to give yourself grace. And I know it's hard when your to-do list, there's nothing checked off. And at the same time, it's like, think about what your values are. What are your priorities? What are you looking to do? And so if your whole goal for a day, like at home, is to have some time to sit at the table with your kids, then, how do you do that in a way that doesn't feed that shame or that guilt that maybe you have laundry that's spilling out of the laundry room or whatever. But it's being able to prioritize the things that are meaningful to us, and also to be able to let go and know that some days you will be Wonder Woman or Superman, and then other days you won't be, and that's all part of it because we don't show up the same every single day.
Joanne, go ahead.
Let's reframe that about failing, please. You cannot fail as parents. You may not, like Mindy was just saying, some days are better than others, but I believe we all come away from our parents having our own stuff to deal with. And that's the way it is. And it becomes the child or the young adult or adult to learn ways to deal with these things. And so you brought them into the world. You had good intentions about everything you did, and you did the very best you could. And I believe it's all about connection. How can we reconnect in every moment? And I think nature is the best way to do that. Get off your phone, get off social media, have a diet day that is none of that, and go walk together. Go walk the dog together. Talk with the dog together. What did the dog just say to you? He just said something. What do you think he just said? Have some fun. Laugh together. And that's the connection I think that we're talking about. And you're not going to feel like you're failing. Please don't.
Jackie, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know when we got to the point in this country where emotions are something we need to apologize for. For instance, I'm sorry you're feeling sad. Would we actually say, I'm sorry you're feeling happy? No, we wouldn't, because emotions are neither right or wrong. They just are. And Herb, I like the fact that you're separating the behavior from the emotion in the question that you had previously. And I think that's the important thing to teach our kids is it's sad is good. Sad is a good feeling. It's an indication of something that we can change or that, we need to understand. But it's the way that we behave while we're having the feeling is the important thing. You look at all of the violence happening in our country, and it's all emotionally driven. And so what we need to do more is regulate our behavior based on the emotions we're feeling. And as parents, we can diffuse a lot of those emotions first of all, by not being the drama mama ourselves, in that we react emotionally with everything our kids do. But I think there's two words that we can use to diffuse when our children are acting up, is we can say, that's interesting. That's interesting. That's interesting. No emotion. Just, that's interesting. Then you can go with, tell me more. Or, how did you get to making that decision? What would you do next time if that happened again? Allow our children to feel it, allow them to understand it, and then help them to decide what's the next best step behaviorally that they can take. That's the way we teach our children.
Awesome. Thank you. Stanley, go ahead, and then we'll go all the way around the horn. So we'll just keep going. What would you tell parents if they're feeling that way right now?
So my approach is going to be a little bit different. I love what everybody else has said, and I acknowledge that mine is coming from a different place. But it comes from my experience. And my experience was in 2022, I was laid off from a job I'd had for a very long time, and it destroyed me. And it was very, very easy to feel like I was a failure for quite a while. And I've been in a bunch of coaching and programs to help me. And the thing I would say, and there's been several of, on the panel and other speakers that have talked about, hey, sometimes you realize you just need professional help. And here's the thing that I've come to realize about the ability to respond well. Emotionally, from a margin, from handling your kids, everything related to it. When you get to the place where you can say, I like me. And you can stop right there. You don't need, I like me because I'm a good parent. I like me because. When you can get to the place where you don't need it because, where you can say, I like me, then you're ready to show up in a profound way to help your family and everybody around you. And so if there is a question about, hey, do you need some counseling? Do you need some coaching? Do you need support? If you can't just calmly say, I like me, that's a good indication that some support would do wonderful things for you, and by extension your ability to show up as that amazing parent. Because I agree with what the others have said, you're not failing, but you might feel like you are because you don't like you. And when you solve that, you're ready to show up.
Awesome. Thank you. Dr. Stephanie.
So much great input right here. I mean, there's so many great nuggets right here. But if I had to share a couple of things, I would go off what Mindy was saying is grace, but I'd also add gratitude, just being thankful for where you are in the space that you're in at the same time. Really connecting. And that's what Joanne was talking about, is really connecting. And I think Jackie was saying that as well. Keeping things simple. What is one great thing that you did? And this is part of building your own confidence as the parent. What is a great thing you did? Did your kids get up and go to school on time? Great. Were they able to turn in their assignments on time? Fantastic. I mean, take baby steps. But my piece, because of I look at culture and I look at leadership and communication so much, is stop and pause. And are you reacting or are you responding? And so if you tend to react and blow up, I think about a nuclear reaction versus being an emergency responder and trying to take care of the situation. Think about how you are coming to that situation. And if nothing else, there is so much power in the pause. And that's what Jackie was saying, is give one statement and then pause and see how you're going to show up.
Thank you. Mitra, go ahead.
Okay, I have two mindsets. They've already kind of been said, but I'm going to just succinct it to create a mindset for you. I'll start with the failure one. This is a mindset that comes through from neurolinguistic programming, and you may already have this mindset. I do, I know I do, and I have to go back to it myself when I have the failure moments of like, oh, it feels like I'm failing right now. But I want you to think when you have that moment, just go, okay, there's no failure. There's only feedback. If you have that feeling of failure, that's feedback to you. Just like Stanley said, that might be feedback of going to get support of, oh, there's this thought, there's this emotion coming up. If I can't navigate it myself, there's something to do about it. So then that leads to my second one, which also comes from neurolinguistic programming. It's a thought I've already had in my life before I even learned about it. So you might have this as well, is that we're all doing the best we can with the resources we have available at the time. It's a matter of unlocking the tools and the resources to continue to move forward at your best. So there may be times where you go and you're like, this was the worst day ever. This was a really hard day. But here's the thing, it was the best I could do with the resources I had in that moment. Learn from those moments and either move forward or learn from those moments and go, I need support or I need help or I need whatever it is that you're needing at that time. But you are doing the best you can with the resources you have available.
And I've got a real quick one here. Because of a girl came into the picture. My youngest son hasn't talked to me in years. Probably, for me, it feels like 10. Sometimes it's like
actually only 6.
6? Wow,
8.
6, 10, no difference after that.
It's
So
just
that
long.
makes me feel sort of a failure as a parent because my son is no longer in my life. But the purpose of a parent is to raise a strong child who can survive in the world. He has a house, he has a child, he's doing his own thing. So in that way, I prepared my son for the world. And so am I a success? Or because it doesn't look like how I wanted and that he's no longer in my life, am I a failure? So again, there's also that sort of a perspective of what is the goal of being a parent? And is it for them to like you? Or is it for them to be able to move forward in life with confidence? And he confidently moved forward without us. And, that's his choice. And we hope someday that might change. But I created a successful child.
And for me, it's like, parents, you are your child's first best teacher. You taught them how to walk and talk and do all of these things. And even when you're having those hard days, they're still watching you. They're still learning from you. So again, kind of like what everybody was saying, change that perspective and know that you're doing what you know how to do. And if you do need help, it's not a failure to reach out and get help, especially, right? Think about all the great teachers in the world. They had to learn from somebody. They weren't the great teachers at the beginning. They had to step up into it. And that's what we're doing as parents every single day. Panel, amazing. Woohoo! Jazz hands.
I gotta say something. I gotta say one more thing.
Absolutely rocked it.
About this. Because
Yeah.
I went through this experience with my son with an alcoholic his father, that he wanted to go back there and live with him. And I felt like such a failure. What am I going to do? Let this kid go back and do whatever he wants, anytime he wants, drive cars, be on bus. And I had to let him go. Had to. He's a teenager now. He can make that decision, even if it's bad, right? I'll tell you the one thing that worked for me. It took 10 years. I kept the intention. I kept the intuitive desire, and he will come back as a healthy adult in my life and be part of it again. And I'm telling you, I held that desire and that intention. That's what it took 10 years. He came back and he is now back in my life as a healthy, emotionally wonderful person with a granddaughter that if I just swear it was my intention that worked. Keep your intention, that energy of drawing him back or her back in your life. And I swear it works.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, panel. Thank you again so very, very much. Awesome. So very thankful. Audience, thank you for being with us. We are going to take a very, very quick break because we have to be ready for our next speaker at the bottom of the hour. All right, go take your quick break. Be right back.
Potty.